Today, also, we are delighted to have as our commencement speaker one of our own UHV alumni who is now morning news anchor and co-host of Fox 29 San Antonio's morning show, Fox News First. I'm gratified that Ernie Zuniga has agreed to address our graduates on this occasion. He is a Victoria native who graduated from St. Joseph High School. He first became interested in broadcasting during a career day in high school. After contacting KAVU-TV, News Center 25 in Victoria, he was hired as the weekend audio operator during the news broadcasts. I think he was 19. He left Victoria, and that was just a couple of years ago. He left Victoria to go to college, but after his sophomore year, he came back as on-air sports anchor with KAVU-TV. Soon after he was hired, he began attending UHV on his undergraduate degree and graduated from UHV in 1998 with a bachelor's of communication. After graduating, he spent 9 years as sports anchor and reporter in Phoenix, Arizona, and came to San Antonio. Along with his anchor duties at Fox San Antonio, he now serves as the play-by-play announcer during live high school football telecasts of Thursday Night Lights on San Antonio's CW 35. Mr. Zuniga and his wife Tammy have 3 small children, including 2-year-old twins. In his spare time, he volunteers with the March of Dimes and the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. We are extremely pleased and honored when Mr. Zuniga accepted our invitation to the spring commencement speaker, and please join me in welcoming him this morning.
Thank you very much. Regent Blair, President Castile, Provost Cass, faculty and staff, graduates, guests, it is such an amazing pleasure for me to be here with you today. This is a tremendous personal honor for me, if I may be greedy for just a minute here. And I am very pleased that my wife Tammy and my father are able to be here with me to experience this morning. I am living proof that a B- student with exactly 1 scholarship to college valued at $100 can do enough with his life that he would be invited back almost 15 years after graduating from UHV to deliver the commencement exercise keynote address this morning. So I am truly humbled by that, and thank you very much for this invitation. It was very difficult for me to find the right words for today. I have given dozens of speeches over the years to tens of thousands of people, but a commencement speech is different. How can I truly capture all of your accomplishments, your achievements, your hard work, your struggle, your sacrifice up here in just a few minutes this morning? Even for someone like myself who communicates for a living and gets paid to do it, I don't think I can adequately do that. Instead, this morning, I would like to speak from the heart and offer a little context and insight from my experience here, and another UHV grad who has been where you are and has seen what is possible after you leave here. Now, as I reflected on my journey leading up to today, I'm reminded how it almost really never came to be. UHV was never on my radar, and I grew up 10 minutes away from here because it wasn't Texas A&M University. I come from a family of Aggies, so it was no surprise that back in the fall of 1994, after I graduated from St. Joe, I went straight to College Station with every intention of getting a degree in journalism from there, and having no problem with that. And as is the case with you, I'm sure your college career maybe didn't go exactly as you thought it would after you were leaving high school. As Dr. Castile said, I left A&M after 2 years and moved right back here to Victoria when I was offered that first sports anchoring job with Don Brubaker at KVUE-TV. And I know Don's still here. I watched him last night, and he's still a legend here in Victoria, and he really taught me a lot about the TV news business here. And perhaps, among you this morning, there is a TV news anchor out there somewhere. If I can do it, you can, that's for sure. But surely, though, there are great future educators, administrators, artists, entrepreneurs, CEOs, leaders, innovators, or perhaps your calling will be that of my own wife, Tammy, who is a smart, accomplished woman who spent 4 years going to college, getting her degree in social work, and chose instead to stay home and raise our 3 kids. So I salute her on that. Her job is more important than my job will ever be. The hours are long and the pay really stinks. But she is impacting our children in a positive way. And that is what I believe we must all do. Find your passion and use it to make a positive impact. For me, that's to deliver the news on television 5 days a week. I am the first thing that many people see and hear each weekday morning in San Antonio, and it's always a little funny and awkward when I'm out on the street and a viewer will come up to me and say, "Hey, I woke up with you this morning." Especially my wife is with me. That's even more awkward. But it's true. Almost a decade and a half removed from my commencement here at UHV, I'm confident that 15 years from now, your life will be vastly different than what you think it will be right now. And that's okay. Because as I sat there in December of 1998, I never dreamed that I would be 15 years later anchoring the morning news on a television program in the 7th largest city in the United States. You couldn't have paid me to think that. And so there's no telling what the future holds for you. And that may be a little unnerving, but I think that it's also exciting because the way I look at it, life is nothing more than a series of decisions, one after the other after the other. If you really think about it, life is nothing more than just a series of decisions. And the choice you've made to get your degree, or in some cases further your education today, gives you a much better chance of being a success. Because the way I look at it, houses, cars, clothes, shoes, cell phones, iPads, boyfriends, girlfriends, they come and go sometimes. But nobody can take away your education ever. Now, as I hinted earlier, I graduated in the middle of my high school class. I was not able to match my father's achievement of being the salutatorian in his high school class, and I chose not to follow in his footsteps to go into the field of engineering because I'm not very good at science and math, and you got to be good at both of those to be a good engineer. Instead, talking comes really naturally to me. I really like to do it, and I could be up here a long time this morning, but I'm not going to do that to you. Growing up, my grade school report cards were basically carbon copies of each other from kindergarten to 8th grade. Decent grades, but in the column there where the teacher would put his or her comments, it would always say, "Ernie is a good student, but he talks too much." So sometime during elementary school, I decided that I would have to pursue a career that catered to my abilities, and that's why I became a broadcaster. I get paid to talk for a living. It's great. Now, I am proud of my story. I'm not ashamed to say that. But I believe it pales in comparison to the accomplishments of another UHV grad who came before all of us here. She is the greatest educator that I have ever known. And since today is a celebration of education, I want to share a little bit of her story with you. This educator grew up in the small West Texas town of Del Rio, here in Texas, in the 1950s and 1960s, and she was raised by her grandmother. And there was very little English and very little education in their home. Her mother worked to support the family, and this educator was strongly discouraged by her mother to attend college. Back then, her mother believed that a woman's place was in the home rather than a college. So despite those setbacks, she was able to go to college, marry a great man, moved to Victoria. As a matter of fact, the Casa del Rio apartments, which I believe are still across the campus there on Ben Wilson to this day. She ultimately got her bachelor's degree from UHV, and it would not be the last time that our university would hear from her. After staying 16 years at home to raise 3 kids, she decided to pursue her love of education by becoming a public school teacher. And during that time, she actually developed a curriculum for teaching Spanish to medical personnel and to first responders, and she taught that course for several semesters at UHV. In 1999, she received her master's degree in administration and supervision from UHV and went on for her doctorate at the age of 48. For 5 years, she worked as a teacher and administrator by day in Victoria Independent School District and then commuted to Kingsville and Corpus Christi at night to attend class and did it over and over again. She logged over 77,000 miles in those 5 years, back and forth to the valley, back and forth. And finally, at the age of 53, she achieved her lifelong goal of earning her doctorate in education. She inspired so many people along the way that I want to read to you a couple of her personal thoughts with you. And these words are not just meant for the education majors that are here this morning, but for nursing, for business, science, criminal justice, the arts, everyone who will ever have an influence on any young person. And by that definition, we are all teachers. These are her words, her philosophy on education, as written in her own doctoral dissertation. And I quote, "Students whom we educate come in many forms, shapes, sizes, and hues. In educating these youngsters, I see myself as a sculptor of their minds, by which I can simultaneously embrace their hearts. A sculpture is very fragile, as is a child. A chip or a tug in the wrong direction totally changes the outcome of the masterpiece. All children are pliable, both emotionally and intellectually. Conversely, a piece of sculpture does not have a mind or a soul, but the lives we truly touch do, and thus must be handled with the utmost care. I believe in educating the whole body, academically, spiritually, and morally, as well as respecting all human beings and expecting the same in return." Those were her words. This educator enjoyed a long and successful career in the Victoria Independent School District. Towards the end of her career, she was hired as the bilingual director at VISD. It was a thrill. It was her dream job. It was as if this position had been created for her and she had worked her entire career for this job. She relished the opportunity to work as an administrator, helping kids on multiple campuses here in Victoria on a daily basis. Her expertise was in bilingual education, and so communicating in Spanish was often required. One day, towards the end of the school year, back in 2011, a local high school student approached her. He was having a difficult time in class. He explained that his English was poor, he was having a very hard time communicating with his teacher and understanding the lessons, and he was quickly falling back in class. He was also working as a waiter at a local restaurant, and he lived alone in a trailer park here in Victoria. He was a junior in high school on the verge of dropping out. He wanted desperately to graduate, and he needed help. This educator heard his concerns and asked him to write his frustrations down in Spanish in a letter. And so he did that, and he gave her this letter. 5 days after receiving this letter, this educator got sick at work here in Victoria, developed some symptoms, and was rushed to a hospital in San Antonio. She had found just enough time, a few minutes, to Google her symptoms, and she had basically diagnosed herself before she even got to the doctor. She had leukemia. It's cancer of the blood. She had successfully beat cancer in the 1980s, and the expectations were that she would do the same thing again. She was immediately given strong chemotherapy treatments and fought a heroic up and down battle. But 14 months later, she lost that battle. And that was last August. She was 61 years old, and she was never able to personally fulfill the promise to the student who had written her this letter. Now, tomorrow is Mother's Day, and it will be the first one without the finest educator I have ever known, Dr. Martha A. Zuniga, my mother. Now, it is sad, but I'm at peace, actually, because of the legacy she left behind, and the legacy that she left behind started here at UHV. Now, to help carry on my mother's legacy, I'm happy to say that an endowment was started shortly after her death, and money from it was used to award the first ever Dr. Martha A. Zuniga Memorial Scholarship to help other ESL and bilingual students in this community, like the young man who wrote this letter. The first scholarship was actually presented this past Tuesday to a local high schooler here in Victoria. And I'm pleased to say that the young man who wrote this letter is still enrolled at Victoria East High School. And my father has actually spent the last few months tutoring him, and his scores are slowly improving, but he still maintains that dream of one day attending college, and perhaps that college will be UHV. Our family has taken it on ourselves that we will refuse to allow leukemia to prevent my mother from fulfilling her goal of helping young people improve their lives through education. That is the mark of a great educator, after all, someone whose impact will last long after they are gone. To me, my mother will always be the ultimate example of how an education can make dreams come true. Now, there's no doubt that my mother would have been here today. There's no doubt she would have been extremely proud of all of you, even though she probably wouldn't have known you. She would have gotten a kick out of me being up here right now, dressed like this. She probably would have said, "Not bad for a guy who almost dropped out of college altogether." After I got my first TV job in college, after all, I was a big shot anchor man in 1996, working in one of the smallest television markets in the entire country. But like my mother, I forged ahead. And when I needed a place to get my degree, this university, UHV, was there for me. So today, I am here for this university. Today is a great day, you know that. Today, I hope you'll never forget. It was an amazing day for me back in 1998, but the real sense of accomplishment for me came actually a few days later. I was all by myself in the driveway of my parents' home in Victoria, here just a few minutes away. I met the mailman out there, and he handed me an envelope, and inside the envelope, one of these. It's a diploma with my name on it. I felt like there were bigger doors that were ready to be opened for me, and that was my key. I hope you will take a moment either now or sometime today, or maybe it's that moment when you get that envelope. Just soak it up for a minute and appreciate what you've accomplished getting this far, and realize that with your education, you are capable of many, many more great things. Opportunity is always knocking, and there are plenty of doors waiting to be opened out there. And now you have your own key. So go do something great with your education. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much.
Wow, was that a good speech or what? That was really great. As a very small token of our appreciation, UHV is proud to donate, in the name of Ernie Zuniga, an honorary brick that we put in front of our university center. So watch that space, Ernie.